He was just a broken rancher, desperate, drowning in debt and haunted by a past he couldn't bury. One night, a stranger slid a gun across the saloon table and whispered, "You already paid. Just do it." Elias Crow thought it was just another job. One shot to buy his freedom. But when he rode into the canyon, he didn't find his target. He found himself. Now the moon watches over a deal gone wrong, where guilt turns to ghosts, and the price of survival becomes the price of a soul. Tonight the West won't sleep, and neither will you. The saloon was nearly empty, drowned in the haze of whiskey and dust. A lantern swung lazily from the ceiling, its dim light cutting through the smoke like a dying sun. The piano in the corner stood silent, its keys yellowed, forgotten, much like the men who once laughed here. Elias Crow sat alone at the far end of the bar. His hat was pulled low, his coat torn from years of hard riding. The barkeep said nothing. He just poured another shot and slid it across. Elias lifted it, staring into the amber, liquid as if it could drown the memories he'd been running from. Outside, the wind howled through the empty street of Redstone. His ranch, what little was left of it, lay miles west, eaten by drought and debt. The land had once sung with life. Now it was nothing but dust and ghosts. He'd buried his wife there under the willow tree that no longer bloomed. Since then, the world had gone quiet. The saloon doors creaked open. A figure stepped in, tall, black coat, hat tilted low. No one spoke. The stranger's boots echoed against the floorboards. As he walked straight to Elias's table, he didn't ask if the seat was taken. He simply sat. For a moment, there was only silence, the faint hiss of wind pushing against the walls. Then the stranger slid an envelope across the table. It was thick, heavy. "You already paid," he said softly. "Just do it." Elias looked up, confused. The stranger's face was hidden in shadow, his gloved hands resting calmly on the table. Elias glanced at the envelope, then at the object that followed it. A revolver. Old, polished, but loaded. "Who?" Elias asked quietly. "Doesn't matter," the stranger replied. "By sunrise you'll be free." The words lingered like smoke. Elias didn't touch the money. He just stared at the gun, feeling its weight even before his hand reached for it. He tried to ask more, tried to understand, but the stranger had already stood up. He left the saloon without another word, the door swinging slowly behind him. Elias sat there long after the wind had died. His reflection shimmered faintly in the bottle before him. A tired, hollow man staring back. The revolver gleamed in the light, cold and certain. He told himself it was just one job. One night, one last favor to fate. He took the gun, pocketed the envelope, and stepped out into the dark street. The stars above Redstone burned faintly like eyes watching from the heavens. And as his boots crunched against the sand, a whisper carried through the wind. "You already paid, Elias. Now earn your freedom." He didn't turn around. He didn't look back. The night swallowed him whole. The moon hung high above the canyon, pale and swollen, casting silver light over the desert. The trail was empty except for the soft rhythm of hooves and the creak of worn leather. Elias rode slow, his hat pulled down against the cold wind, the revolver heavy at his side. Each step his horse took echoed through the canyon walls, hollow, lonely, endless. He had been riding for hours, chasing directions scribbled on a scrap of paper. "Old farmhouse by the canyon," it said. Nothing more. No name, no reason, just that place, that hour. The wind carried whispers through the rocks, and every sound, a coyote's cry, a shifting branch, felt like it was calling his name. The farmhouse came into view at last, its roof sagging, windows shattered, paint long stripped by sand and time. It stood like a corpse of a home, still wearing the memory of life. Elias dismounted, boots crunching the gravel, and tied his horse to the fence post. The animal snorted uneasy, ears flicking toward the house. He took the gun from his holster, spun the cylinder once, and stepped forward. The door creaked open with a sound that seemed too human, like a groan. Dust danced in the air, thick and slow, and the smell of rotten old wood hung heavy. Inside, the floorboards groaned under his boots, as if the house itself recognized him. His lantern's flame flickered, throwing long shadows across the walls. Torn curtains swayed though there was no wind. A single rocking chair sat in the middle of the room facing the fireplace. It moved, slow, rhythmic, creaking with each sway. Elias froze. He took one step closer. The chair rocked again, and that's when he heard it. Soft at first, almost like the wind. A hum, a tune familiar. His breath caught. It was a lullaby, the same lullaby Mary used to sing. He lowered the lantern, scanning the corners. "Mary?" he whispered, voice trembling. The sound stopped. Silence filled the air so thick he could hear his own pulse. Then the rocking began again, faster this time, more deliberate. He turned toward it, hands shaking as he raised the gun. "Who's there?" he demanded, his voice breaking against the dark. The lantern light flickered. Again, and he saw something move in the corner of the room. A figure, sitting in the chair, head down, hands on its knees. The flicker of firelight caught the outline of its face. It was him. Elias froze, breath gone from his chest. The face that stared back was his own, pale, hollow, eyes black as night. The figure smiled faintly, rocking slower now, its lips moving though no sound came. The air turned ice cold. Elias stumbled backward, his lantern clattering to the floor. The light dimmed, shadows swallowing the room. From somewhere in the dark, the hum returned, low, echoing, coming from every wall. The figure rose from the chair, moving like smoke. Elias backed toward the door, the revolver trembling in his hand. His throat went dry as the voice whispered from the dark, low, calm, familiar. "You already paid. Now finish what you started." The wind slammed the door shut behind him. The lantern went out, and in the pitch-black silence of that house by the canyon, Elias Crow finally understood that what he came to kill was himself. Elias stumbled backward into the dark, his heart hammering against his ribs. The house seemed alive now, breathing, shifting, whispering with every board that creaked beneath his boots. He could feel the cold rising from the floor, wrapping around his legs like smoke. His lantern lay shattered, its last spark dying in the dust. Only the pale light of the moon bled through the cracks in the walls. Trembling like it was afraid to enter, he could hear the rocking chair again. Creak, creak, creak. The sound followed him even though he wasn't in the same room anymore. He gripped his revolver tight, eyes darting through the shadows. His voice broke through the silence, rough and desperate. "Who are you?" he shouted. "What do you want from me?" The answer came from everywhere at once, from the walls, from the floor, from inside his own skull. "You already know, Elias. You already paid." He spun around. The figure stood in the doorway now. The same as before. Same face, same eyes, same hollow stare. It smiled faintly, like it pitied him. Elias raised the gun, finger trembling on the trigger. "Stay back," he barked. But the figure didn't move. It simply tilted its head, and the light caught its face, showing all the cracks and scars Elias had tried to forget, his own sins carved deep into the reflection of a man he no longer was. The floor beneath him groaned. The walls began to pulse with a deep red glow, like veins under flesh. He stumbled back into the parlor. The family portraits on the wall were melting, faces twisting, eyes bleeding shadow. His wife's laughter echoed through the room, soft at first, then sharp, almost cruel. He dropped to his knees, clutching his head. "Mary, please." Her voice drifted through the burning air. "You left us. You paid in blood, Elias, but the debt never ends." He screamed, firing the gun again and again. The muzzle flash burst like lightning, but every time the smoke cleared, there was no one there. Only the sound of that chair. Creak, creak, creak. The air grew hotter. Flames crawled up the walls, licking the edges of the room. The figure stood again in front of him, unburned, unmoving. It raised its hand slowly and pointed the same revolver back at him. Elias stared into his own eyes. His grip loosened. The world around him began to blur. Fire. Laughter, whispers all swirling together. "You already paid," the voice said softly. "Now settle your own debt." He lifted the revolver to his temple. One tear traced the line of dirt on his cheek. The gunshot tore through the night. When dawn came, the farmhouse was nothing but ash. Smoke curled from the blackened foundation, rising into the pale morning sky. The sheriff found Elias Crow sitting in the dirt outside, knees drawn to his chest, his revolver limp in his hand. His eyes were open, but they saw nothing. He kept whispering the same words, again and again, a prayer, a confession, a curse. You already paid. You already paid. And as the wind swept through the canyon, the sheriff swore he heard another voice carried on it, faint, calm, and cold. Debt's paid, Crow, but your soul keeps the books. The wind fell silent after that. The prairie slept, and the legend of Elias Crow was born. The rancher who tried to buy his freedom and found his ghost instead.